Hello and welcome to another edition of Paydirt TV. I'm Dominic Piper. Today I'm joined by Sandfire Resources Managing Director, Carl Simic. Carl, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dom. Thank you very much.
Carl, it's been a very confusing time for the industry and in fact the entire globe with COVID-19. I noticed in the last couple of weeks you've reinstated your guidance for FY20. Is that a sign of confidence in the company that you've been able to manage the situation around the pandemic?
Look, I think it is, Dominic. I think, what's been really interesting for us is during this pandemic is that we've had to get back to basics in the business. We put in place some really strict protocols. We initially withdrew our guidance generally in the marketplace, and that was not only operating guidance, but it also related to timetables with development projects, etc. So that's why we withdrew all of that guidance. And recently we reinstated, I think on the 25th of May, we reinstated our operating performance guidance. We expect to have a very, very, very good operating year out of the DeGrussa Monty complex up there. But what's been really pleasing through a very challenging time is that we've had good structure, good systems, good protocols, and we've been able to well and truly operate well through this period of time.
You say it's a challenging time. What has been the biggest challenge operationally but also corporately?
I think what's been fascinating or really interesting, and it's made us highlight and focus our attention, has been on what's essential in the business. But if there have been some good learnings through this time, let's continue with those going forward.
Apart from DeGrussa, of course, you've got a couple of development projects that you've got in the pipeline. I'm interested to talk about T3 in Botswana. Are you happy with the progress there? Has it been affected by the timetable been affected by COVID?
The timetable to some extent has been extended. We had to effectively down operational tools or exploration tools. We could continue to do work in a study sense and a back office sense. Scoping studies and feasibility studies and optimization. So those things could continue remotely. But in terms of work on the ground, that did get delayed somewhat. I think it will have an impact of pushing out essentially a quarter some of the key decisions that we were looking to make. So we're hoping towards the end of this current quarter, we were second quarter of this year calendar, looking to make some decisions. I think it'll be more like the third quarter or early the fourth quarter. We're looking at making really strategic and important milestone decisions for that project. Fundamentally, it's been also positive in a sense because we have been exploring on an adjacent ore body called the A4 project, and as a consequence of sort of doing work, it meant that we've got an opportunity to drill out this other resource. As we see it now, we're able to get people back on the ground. We've recommenced drilling in early June. And we expect by the end of June to have somewhere in the order of 8 to 10 drill rigs back on that A4 project, both doing extensional drilling, which is for an expanding resource, and also infill resource definition drilling. The interesting thing about that is it potentially has significant consequences for the ultimate scale of T3 in terms of an operating project, and also its longevity. But more importantly as well, that A4 discovery appears to be at this stage a higher grade, somewhere in the order of 1.3% copper, and T3 being just below 1% copper. So when you start adding it together, it becomes a far more lucrative prospective situation of scale.
Does that say you're growing in confidence in your early days there in Botswana, and is there a chance for more consolidation?
In the transaction we did late last year, we consolidated 100% of about 11,300 square kilometres of effectively virgin, highly prospective, significant copper endowment mineralisation. It's a world scale belt in our view. It is the last of one of the belts that has been underexplored. It's never had a lot of attention on it. And we know our neighbour to the northeast, the Khoemacau project controlled by Kuprick Canyon, is in development at the moment. And that global resource that organisation has to our northeast is somewhere in the order of 7 million tonnes of contained copper. We have 3/4 of the Kalahari copper belt in Botswana. Our neighbour has 1/4. The area we have has been preserved geologically with a calcrete cover, and the area we have has been underexplored. And I think with modern exploration techniques, with access to the appropriate resources in terms of capital and cash, puts us in a fantastic opportunity for, I think, a region that has the potential to have multiple hubs of production that we sit on, and for many, many, many decades to come. So I think we're really at a very early stage in terms of, and we're very excited about that.
Your other development project is in Montana in the US, the Black Butte project. It seems to me that that might be a slightly longer process when it comes to permitting and development. Is that fair to say?
I think that process in the US and in Montana has had various challenges. The bureaucracy, the system there does require many, many different processes to go through and numerous timetables to be delivered. And through that process of our mine operating permit application, which has been approved, our environmental impact statement, which now has been completed and it's final, completed by the regulator, is in the public domain, and now they have completed and issued us, as I said, the record of decision. That record of decision, being the mining permit, now enables us to move through into a construction phase. We have some target dates for Botswana 2022 to be in production, late 22, and for the US to be in production probably a year later. So that is our target. That's what we're working towards.
Carl, it's a very confusing time in all markets at the moment, given the economic upheaval caused by the global pandemic, particularly in the copper market where short-term and long-term outlooks are very different. What's your feeling on the market and where it's going?
Look, I think we're not too concerned about the short-term fluctuations and aberrations in commodity prices. I think, with the markets doing what they did through the pandemic, caused all sorts of oscillations, dramatic. We saw some extreme movements in commodity prices, also in share prices, and then we saw them bounce back to some extent, not fully. We do see a bit of a sense through a slowing of economic activity at the moment, where there is a little bit of demand destruction. There's no question about that. Fundamentally, though, it's not demand that's gone away forever. It's just been moved out to come at another time. What we have also seen in the short term as a consequence of COVID and the hangover from COVID, let's say, is a little bit of supply disruption as well. In terms of looking at key parameters for projects going forward, the world, it's still a wonderful product that is used extensively for a multitude of purposes. Electrification of the world being one of them, critically. Green, clean power being the other one. But more importantly, I think when you look at the prognosis in terms of declining metal grades out of mines, the cost of developing projects, the capital intensity, the operating cost profile, is that we need a bit higher copper price long term. For the time being, somewhere heading towards back to $3 a pound is a price that we should think should occur in the next 12 to 18 months is a sensible price.
Carl, thanks very much for your time today. It's great to see Sandfire are back on track after a couple of stumbles there due to the COVID situation, but best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you in Botswana with a new mine very soon.
Thank you very much, Dominic.